All right. So the last time we did up till only when they sang about the summer and about the sun and the summer did her lips move and she watched the drenched windows. So this was the last sentence, I think. Now, today we will start with the new paragraph and then, of course, the biggest crime of all was. So, who will start reading? Arunima, you want to read?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
And
you
then,
can.
of course, the biggest crime of all was that she had come here only 5 years ago from Earth, and she remembered the sun and the way the sun was and the sky was when she was 4 in
Ohio. It's
They
Ohio, Arunima.
Ohio, and they had been on Venus all their lives, and they had been only 2 years old when the last the
When
sun
last
came
the
out.
sun, yes.
The sun came out and had long since forgotten the color and heat of it and the way it really was. But Margot remembered.
Margaret Freeman,
It
yes.
it is like a penny, she said, once eyes closed. No, it is not, the child cried.
The
It is a
children cried
fire.
actually. Yes.
It is a fire, she said, in the stove. You are lying, you don't remember, cried the children.
Okay,
But she
stop.
remembered.
You wait now.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. So now what is happening is now the author is telling us about why Margaret was waiting for the son so much and not the other children. All right. Because she was waiting the most for the son. Why? Her biggest crime of all. So the author is saying the reason why she was waiting for the son a lot to be a crime because everybody was hating her because of that, right? That is why the author is calling this to be a crime. So the biggest crime, the reason why she was waiting is because she had come here only 5 years ago from Earth. So we come to know that Margaret was not living on Venus for all her life. All right. She had only come to Venus 5 years ago. So this is very important. All the other children were living on Venus for their entire lives, but Margaret was living here only for 5 years. And she remembered the sun and the way the sun was and the sky was when she was 4 in Ohio. So Ohio is the name of a state in United States of America. All right. So in USA there is a state named Ohio. So Margaret was living in Ohio till the age of 4. So for 4 years of her life she was staying on Earth. So every day she was seeing the sun and she was feeling the heat and warmth of the sun, and she also saw the actual color of the sky, which is blue in color. So Margaret is remembering all of this because she was on the earth earlier and she had seen all of this for 4 years of her life. And they had been on Venus all their lives. So they here actually means the other children. All right, the other children who are a bit different from Margaret because they had been on Venus all their lives and they had been only 2 years old when the sun came out. So the last time when the sun came out, they were only 2 years old and they have been living on Venus for their entire lives. So since they were so small, they were only 2 years old, and the sun came out for a very small time, that is 1 hour or 2 hours. So they had long since forgotten the color and the heat and the way it was. So they don't remember the color of the sun, they don't remember the heat of the sun, and they also don't remember the shape of the sun. So basically, they are not able to remember anything about the sun because they had only seen the sun just for an hour or two at a small age of 2, right? And Margaret, she had seen the sun for 4 years of her life every day when she was living on Earth in Ohio. All right. So the author is saying, but Margaret remembered. So she remembered the sun. It's like a penny, she said once, eyes closed. So once she compared the sun to a penny. Why a penny? Because a penny is also round in shape and the sun is also round in shape. So with her eyes closed, she remembered the sun and she said that it's like a penny. So what the children replied? No, it's not, said the children. So this is very important because the children are saying that no, it's not. But the sun is actually like a penny, it's round in shape. So it clearly shows us that the children did not remember the shape of the sun at all because they are refusing Margaret that the sun looked like a penny. Now we move ahead. So here also it is being said that it's like a fire, she said. So now Margaret has started comparing the sun to the fire. And why is she comparing the sun to fire? Because the sun also gives us heat and light, and the same is the work of the fire. Yes, fire also gives us heat and it also gives us light. So Margaret is comparing it to the fire in the stove. Now again the children are saying, you are lying, you don't remember, cried the children. So what the other children are saying? So they are saying that you are lying about it and you don't remember. But what is actually happening? Actually, it is the other children who are not remembering and Margaret actually remembers it. So both these lines where children are refuting Margaret that it's not the shape of penny and it does not look like a fire. So in both these cases, it clearly shows that the children don't know about the heat, the light of the sun, and they also don't know about the shape of the sun. All right. So now I think we should start reading again. Unnati, you want to read? Unnati, you are not audible. No, you are not audible. Okay, you wait right now. Vaishnavi, you continue. You start.
Yes, sir. But she remembered and stood quietly apart from all of them and watched the patterning windows. And once, a month ago, she had refused to shower in the school
Shower. It's
shower's
shower
room.
in the school shower rooms. It means to take
Shower
a
in
bath,
the
basically. Yes.
shower in the school shower's room. Had clutched her hands to her ears and over her head, screaming the water must not touch her head. So after that, dimly, she sensed it. She was different, and they knew her difference and kept away.
Okay, stop. So now what is happening? The author is describing a scene actually what happened a month ago, right? So first he is saying that she remembered, but she remembered over here means that the children, though they were saying that you are lying, you don't remember the color, the heat and the shape of the sun, but she remembered. This is what the author is saying. And stood quietly apart from all of them and watched the patterning windows. Why the word patterning windows is being used over here? Because the rain is falling and the raindrops are falling on the glass of the window, and since they are falling on the window they are creating designs or patterns. All right, so this is why the author is giving the term patterning windows. All right, and once a month ago she had refused to shower in the school shower rooms, had clutched her hands to her ears and over her head. So what happened a month ago that she refused to shower. And what she did? She covered her ears and her head with her hands, screaming, the water mustn't touch her head. So water must not touch her head. Why? Because she was hating water a lot. Yes, she was not in a good state because for a long time she has been seeing the rain, and she is waiting for the sun to come out. So she has a bit of hatred for water. So she said that water should not touch her head, and she covered her entire head and her ears with her hand and started shouting. So this was very weird for all the other children when they saw. So after that, means after that incident, dimly she sensed it that she was different. So when this incident happened, gradually she started to realize that she was different from the other children, because the other children were not having this problem. They did not had so much hatred for water. Yes, they wanted to see the sun, but they did not hate water so much as Margaret did. And they knew her difference and kept away. And the other children also realized that Margaret is a bit different from them after this act happened. And so they also started to keep away from Margaret. It means that they started to keep some distance. All right. Okay. Now, Anirudh, you start reading.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
There was talk that her father and mother were taking her back to Earth next year. It seemed vital to her that they do so, though it would mean the loss of thousands of dollars to her family. And so the children hated her for all these reasons of big and little consequence. They hated her pale snow face, her waiting silence, her thinness, and her
Her
possible
thinness.
future.
Yes.
Her thinness and her possible future. Get away. The boy gave her another push. What are you waiting for? Then, for the first time, she turned and looked at him, and what she was waiting for was in her eyes. Well, don't wait around here, cried the boy savagely. You won't see anything. Her lips moved.
Okay,
Nothing,
stop,
he
stop,
cried.
stop. So now the author is telling us about what is going to happen next. The author is speaking about that her parents are now planning to take her to Earth next year, right? And why they are planning? Because Margaret is very upset on Venus. So there was talk that her father and mother were taking her back to Earth next year. It seemed vital. Vital means very important, vital to her. Why it was important to her? Because she was not liking the weather on Venus at all, and she was hating water a lot, and she was waiting for the sun and the summer. So it was very important for her that her parents took her back to Earth so that she could experience the sun and the summers were there, right? And they do so, and if they do it, it would mean the loss of thousands of dollars to her family. Why loss of thousands of dollars? Because they would have to go back in a rocket. So the author is predicting that traveling by rocket would be very costly. Okay, so the author is fantasizing that in the future world, traveling by rockets will be very costly. So he's saying that since she would have to go back to Earth in a rocket, it would mean loss of thousands of dollars to her family. And so the children hated her. So now the author is telling about all the reasons why the children hated her. For all these reasons of big and little consequence. So the reasons which had big importance, or of reasons of little importance. So the author is telling all the reasons why the children hated Margaret. They hated her pale snow face. So she was always very pale, snow faced. All right, she was not happy at all. And we have read earlier also that she had lost the color of her eyes, she had lost the redness in her cheeks, and she had lost the yellow of her hair. So she looked very ill and pale. So the children did not like that. Then they also did not like her waiting silence. Why waiting silence? Because she was always waiting for the sun to come out and she would remain alone standing and waiting for the sun. So this thing also irritated all the other children a lot. Then her thinness. She was also not very beautiful. She was very thin because she was always depressed. So when a person does not remain happy and a person is always sad and depressed, so naturally all these things will happen. She would become frail, thin, pale faced. Yes. So all these things made the children hate Market and her possible future. What is the possible future? That she will return to the earth. This is a possibility. So she will not remain with them on Venus for a long time. So the children did not want to make friends with her for all these reasons. Now, one of the boys is saying, get away. The boy gave her another push. What are you waiting for? So the boy is asking Margaret that what is Margaret waiting for over here? Then for the first time, she turned and looked at him. So up till now, she was not looking at anybody. But when the boy asked, what are you waiting for? Then she turned and looked at him. And what she was waiting for was in her eyes. So what she was waiting for was in her eyes. It means that it was clearly evident that what she was waiting for, everybody knew that she was waiting for the sun to come out. She was looking out for the sun. Well, don't wait around here, cried the boy savagely. Savagely means in a bit rude and wild manner. All right. So the boy shouted that don't wait around here. You won't see anything. So the boy is telling that you will not be able to see anything. So don't wait around here. Her lips moved. So now the Margaret is now trying to speak something. Okay. So now who wants to read? Genia, you want to read?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So start reading.
Nothing, he cried. It was all a joke, wasn't it? He turned to the other children. Nothing is happening today, is it? They all blinked at him and then, understanding, laughed and shook their heads.
Shook their heads. Yes.
Shook their heads. Margaret whispered, her eyes helpless. But this is the day the scientists predict. They say they know the sun. All a joke, said the boy and seized her roughly. Hey everyone, let's put her in a closet before teacher comes. No, said Margaret, falling back.
Okay, stop. So now what is happening? Nothing, he cried. It was all a joke, wasn't it? So now the boy is saying that nothing means that you won't see anything. Nothing will happen. It was all a joke, wasn't it? What was the joke? The prediction that the scientists made that today the sun will come out for an hour. So that prediction is being called joke over here by this boy. All right. It was all a joke, wasn't it? He turned to the other children. So now he is taking the help of the other children. Basically, he is trying to tease Margaret. All right. He is trying to trouble her. So nothing is happening today, is it? So he is again now asking the other children that today nothing is happening, right? So they all blinked at him and then understanding laughed and shook their head. So now all the other children So now all the other children realized what this boy was doing. So they realized that he was teasing and troubling Margaret. So they also joined in and they all blinked at him, and then understanding what was going on, they all laughed and they also shook their heads, saying that yes, yes, nothing is going to happen today. That prediction was just a joke. Nothing, nothing, they said. So they were also saying that yes, yes, nothing is going to happen today. Oh, but Margaret whispered, her eyes helpless. So, by seeing that all the other children are saying that nothing is going to happen today and that prediction was just a joke, so Margaret became helpless upon hearing all these things. Then she is saying, but this is the day the scientists predicted. So she is saying that, but this is the day the scientists predicted. They say they know the sun. So Margaret is saying that the scientists know about the sun, that when it will come out, when it will not come out. And this is the day the scientists have predicted. All a joke, said the boy. So now the boy is again saying that this prediction is all a joke and seized her roughly. Seize means to catch hold of someone. All right. So the boy caught hold of her roughly and said, hey everyone, let's put her in a closet before the teacher comes. So now what they are deciding, that we should close her, put her in a closet, in a cupboard before the teacher comes. No, said Margaret, falling back. So now Margaret is protesting that please don't put me in a closet. Now we will proceed further. Angel, you want to read?
Yes, sir.
Okay, start reading.
They searched about her, caught her up and bore her, protesting and then pleading, and then crying back into a tunnel, a room, a closet where they slammed and locked the door. They stood looking at the door and saw it tremble for her beating and throwing herself against it. They heard her muffled cries, then smiled. They turned and went out and back down the tunnel just as the teacher arrived. Ready, children? She glanced at her watch. Yes, said everyone. Are we all here? Yes. The rain slackened still more. They crowded to the huge door. The rain stopped.
Okay,
It
you
was
also stop. All right. So now what is happening is that they moved about her. All right, search means to move forward basically. So now all the children are moving towards Margaret. All right, they caught her up and bore her. So they picked her up and she started protesting and then pleading. So first protesting means she was fighting and protesting against it. And then she started pleading. Pleading means to request, that she started requesting that please don't put me in the closet. And then crying. But after they were not listening to her pleading also, then she started crying. Back into a tunnel, a room, a closet. So first they took her into the underground tunnel, then they entered a room, and then they put her in a closet where they slammed and locked the door. So slammed means that when you close the door with a loud thud, all right, forcefully when you close the door. So they put Margaret in the closet and slammed the door and locked it. All right. They stood looking at the door. So after they have closed the door, now they are standing and looking at the door of the closet and saw it tremble from her beating. Tremble means to shake, because Margaret is beating against the door. So the door was shaking and throwing herself against it. So Margaret was also beating the door and she was also throwing herself against the door so that she might break open the door of the closet and come out. She was trying that. They heard her muffled cries. Muffled means unclear. All right, because since now Margaret is in the closet, so her cries and what she is saying is not very clear. So that is why the author has used the word muffled over here, because all her voice and all her cries were now very unclear. Then smiling, they turned and went out and back down the tunnel just as the teacher arrived. So now after they have closed Margaret in a closet and she is crying, so now they all are smiling. And why they did this? Because they hated Margaret. They turned and went out and back down the tunnel. So now they came out of the room and then they came out of the tunnel also, just as the teacher arrived. So now the teacher has arrived. Ready, children? She glanced at her watch. So why she glanced at her watch? Looked, because now the time is coming for the sun to come out. So now she is asking the children that, are you ready to watch the sun? Yes, said everyone. So everybody is saying that yes, we are ready. Then now the teacher is asking, are we all here? So now the teacher is just checking that, are all the students present? So the children are replying yes. So now here you can see that the children are clearly lying over here, because they have locked Margaret in the closet. And when the teacher is asking, are we all here? So they are not telling that no, Margaret is not here, she is in the closet. But instead they are saying that yes, all are present over here. Okay. So now what is being said? The rain slackened a little more. Slackened means it is stopping. All right. It became a little less. So now the rain is stopping a bit more. They crowded the huge store. The rain stopped. So now everybody is now standing at the door of the tunnel, and now the rain has completely stopped. So now in the next paragraph, we will see how the weather changes after the rain has stopped. So now the author will basically compare it to a movie. All right, and show how the weather is changing on Venus. Okay. Now who will read? Let's see. Bhavya, you want to read?
Sir, yes, sir.
Yes, go ahead.
It was as if in the midst of a film
Mist. It's in
concert,
the mist means middle. All right.
midst of a film concerning an
Avalanche. Yes.
outlank, outlank,
Tornado.
tornado, hurricanes, a volcanic eruption.
Eruption. Yes.
Something had some something had something had first gone wrong with the sound apparatus.
Apparatus. Yes. Apparatus means equipment, sound equipment. All right.
So, a flooding and finally cutting off all noise, all of the blast and
Repercussions.
repercussions, the thunders and then
Second,
uh, second repeat the film
ripped
around
the
the
film. Yes.
leave the film around the projector and inserted in its place a peaceful tropical
Light.
light which it did not move or tremor.
Yes.
The world ground to stand still. The silence was so immense and unbelievable that you felt your ears had been
Tough. Yes.
stuffed stuff and you had lost your hearing altogether. The children put their hands to their ears. They they
Stood
stood
apart.
apart.
Yes.
The door slid back and the smell of the silent waiting world came into them. The sun came out.
All right, Bhavya, you
No,
stop now. The sun came out. All
thank,
right. Stop.
thank you, sir.
Okay. So now what the author is telling about when the rain stops. So what all is happening now? The author is comparing it to a film. All right. It was as if in the midst of a film concerning an avalanche, a tornado, and a hurricane. So now the author, what is an avalanche? It means that when you see the mountains, when a large amount of snow, ice, dirt, rocks, or other things, a large amount of mud starts sliding down from one side of the mountain, it is called an avalanche. All right. Then a tornado. Tornado is a storm. All right. It's a windy storm and it moves in circles. These tornadoes come a lot in the North American continent. All right. So they are peculiar storm which move in circles. Then a hurricane. So hurricane is also a storm with very strong winds. So naturally, all these things, when they happen, they make a lot of noise. If a tornado comes, if a hurricane comes, or if an avalanche takes place, naturally, it would make a lot of noise, right? And then the author is also talking about a volcanic eruption. So a volcanic eruption will also make a lot of noise. So the author is saying that it looked as if we were watching a film that had all these things: tornado, hurricane, volcanic eruptions, and then something happened to the sound apparatus, that now everything was becoming silent. So the author is comparing it to watching a film which was having all these things, and then the sound apparatus goes wrong. So thus muffling and finally cutting off all the noise. Muffling means first making it a bit slower, the sound becoming lower and lower, unclear, and then finally cutting off all the noise means finally silence prevailing. All of the blasts and repercussions and thunder. So all the results of all those blasts and thunders, now everything was not being heard and now everything was silent. And the author is comparing all of this to the weather condition on Venus right now, because now when the rain has stopped, so there was no more sound of the tattling drums and the gushing of water, and now the sun has come out, so the storms have also stopped, so there are no more tidal waves coming to the islands. So the environment on Venus has become very peaceful right now, right? So there is no more noise and all these sounds of eruptions coming up on Venus. So the present situation, the weather situation on Venus is compared to a film that has all these things, and something has gone wrong with the sound apparatus. So the author is just making a comparison. Then what he is saying, and then second, rip the film out from the projector. So first the author was talking about the sound aspect, and now he is talking about the visual things. That now the film has all been taken out from the projector, and now the film has been changed, inserted in its place a peaceful tropical slide. Tropics region of the earth is the Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn, you know, and India falls in the Tropic of Cancer region, right? And you see the weather here is very moderate. Yes, there are not much storms over here, and the weather here is not very harsh. It is very moderate and we can live easily and peacefully over here. The living conditions are not very harsh over here. So that is what the author is talking about, that someone it looked as if someone has inserted in its place a tropical slide in the projector which did not move or tremor. So here there is no storm coming, there is no volcanic eruption going on. So there is no more disturbance and it is looking all very peaceful, right? So this was the situation on Venus also, because now the rains have stopped, the storm has stopped. Now everything has come to a standstill and it was all peaceful and silent. The world ground to a standstill. So the author is talking about the condition of Venus right now, that everything was at a standstill. So after all these 7 years of noise coming all the time from the rain and the storm and the water continuously flowing, so now right now everything was at a standstill and everything was peaceful. Now the author is focusing more on the silence. The silence was so immense. Immense means of a very high degree, was so immense and unbelievable. Why unbelievable? Because everybody living on Venus, they had not experienced silence for the entire lives. All the children, they had not experienced silence because all their lives they were living on Venus. And the last time silence came, they were only 2 years old. So they could not remember silence at all. So it was very unbelievable for them because they were experiencing silence for the first time. It was so unbelievable that you felt your ears had been stuffed or you had lost your hearing altogether. So now the author is saying that the children felt like something had been stuffed in their ears. That is why they are not able to hear anything, or they had lost their hearing only, that they have become deaf because they were not listening all the noise that they have been used to hearing all their entire life, right? So they were experiencing the silence for the first time. All right, the children put their hands to their ears, so they were just checking out that whether their ears were working fine or not. They were putting their hands to their ears and they stood apart. So now they were not busy amongst fighting each other or playing. They were just trying to experience something which they were experiencing for the first time in their life. They were trying to all savor it in, right? So they were busy in that. The door slid back and the smell of the silent waiting world came into them. So the door is the door of the tunnel where they had gathered. So now gradually all the children are coming out into the ground because now the rain has stopped and everything is peaceful. So now the door of the tunnel is being closed and the smell of the silent waiting world. Why? Because the world is waiting for them and they are waiting for this peaceful world for a very long time. So the smell of the silent waiting world came into them. The sun came out. So now the author is telling that finally the sun has come out for which they have been waiting for such a long time. All right. So Masuma, you want to read? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes, start.
It, it was the color of flaming bronze and it was very large. And the sky around it was a blazing blue tile color. And the jungle burned with sunlight as the children released from their spell, rushed out yelling into the springtime. Now, don't go too far, called the teacher after them. You have only 2 hours to know. You wouldn't want to get caught
You
out.
wouldn't want to get out caught. Yes.
But they were running and turning their faces up to the sky and feeling the sun on their cheeks like a warm iron. They were taking off their jackets and letting the sun burn their arms.
Okay, stop. So now the author is describing about the sun, that how the sun looked like. All right. It was the color of flaming bronze. All right. So the author is calling the sun to be bronze colored. So bronze is a moderate yellowish to olive brown. It is in between, like, all right, the color of the sun. Flaming bronze, and it was very large. So the author is also telling the sun that came out was very large and it was of a flaming bronze color. And the sky around it was a blazing blue tile color. So the color of the sky was blazing blue tile color. So this is what the author is comparing the color of the sky to. Now why this color of the sky is important over here? Because up till now the children had seen the sky to be very dull and dark, because all the time there were heavy clouds in the sky and all the time it was raining. So they had never seen the blue color of the sky all their lives. So this was the first time they were seeing the actual color of the sky. All right. Then, and the jungle burnt with sunlight as the children. So jungle burnt with the sunlight. What does this mean? It does not mean that the jungle was lit with fire. All right. it actually means that since the sunlight is yellow and now it is falling on the jungle also, and so the jungle was looking all yellow. Earlier it was looking very dull because all the time there was overcast conditions and there was always rain, so it looked very dull. But now since bright sunlight is out, so the jungle was also shining bright and looking very yellow. So that is why the author is comparing the jungle to being burnt because it was looking all yellow. As the children released from their spell rushed out, released from their spell because they were so lost in the silence that they were trying to hear. They were all standing apart and experiencing it. So they were a bit lost. So when they came back to their senses, they were released from their spell. They rushed out yelling into the springtime. Now, since the sun has come out, so the author is calling this time to be a springtime, because in the springtime, flowers bloom and everything starts to look very colorful. And now, since the sun has come out over here, so now everything is looking very colorful. Otherwise, before the sun came out, everything was looking very dull, right? And very gloomy because there were always overcast conditions and it was always raining. So that is why the author is comparing this time to be springtime. All right. Now don't go too far, said the teacher. Called the teacher after them. So the teacher is now warning that please don't go too far because the children were running away. You have only 2 hours, you know. So the teacher is reminding them that this weather will not remain for a very long time. The sun has come out only for 2 hours, and then for the next 7 years, it will be raining again. So you have only 2 hours with you. So please don't go too far. You wouldn't want to get caught out. So the teacher is telling why caught out, because it will start raining again. So now the teacher is reminding the children that if you will go too far away and if it will 2 hours will pass very quickly, and if it starts raining, then you will be caught in the rain and the storm, right? So you will be in trouble then. So don't go too far so that you can come back within 2 hours. All right. The teacher is warning the children, but they were running. But the children are now so happy that they are not listening, and they were running and turning their faces up to the sky. Why they are turning their faces up to the sky? Because they are looking at the color of the sky. Wait a minute. So they were running and turning their faces up to the sky, and up to the sky because they were looking at the sun and they were looking at the color of the sky for the first time. So they were keeping their faces up towards the sky and feeling the sun on their cheeks like a warm iron. So now they are feeling the sunlight fall on their cheeks and they were feeling the warmth of it, and this was all happening for the first time in their lives. So the warmth of the sunlight felt like warm iron on their cheeks. They were taking off their jackets and letting the sun burn their arms. So now when they found that the sun burning their cheeks was very pleasurable, they were enjoying the sunlight falling on their cheeks. So now they also started taking off their jackets so that the sunlight could also fall on their arms. All right. So we will stop here today. All right.